This talk is about transformer adequacy, including as it relates to the PSC resource adequacy docket introduced by Commissioner O'Donnell in 2022. Purpose of transformers. Power grid electrical transformers are electromagnetic devices that convert electrical energy from one circuit to another without changing its frequency or power. Transformers help to improve the efficiency and safety of electrical power systems by raising and lowering voltage levels as and when needed. Transformers first became functional in the United States in 1885. That's a replica of the first one. This was in 1919, some older ones. This is a brief history of transformer development. Here's a modern day one that you might see out on the street or maybe even on your property. Here's the insides of that one that you might see on your property. Here's a larger version. Transformers make our current lifestyle possible by taking high voltage electricity from power stations and transforming it into low voltage electricity that can be safely used by homes as well as industrial and commercial properties like offices. Transformer basics. They do not generate electrical power. They transfer electrical power from one circuit to another using magnetic coupling. The higher the voltage, the less power losses in lines. So that's the reason for increasing the voltage at the generation station. Transformers increase the voltage produced by power generators, then back the voltage down before the power gets to your home or business. Here's a schematic representation of it. Transformer basic structure. There is a core, input connections, output connections, coil windings. They all use metal, and they range in size from handheld to boxcar size and larger. The types of transformers are classified based on their cooling systems. There's a dry type and an oil-filled types that breaks down into hermetic and conservator. Advantages and disadvantages of the dry types. The dry types have no flammable, potentially explosive, and otherwise toxic fluids, so they are preferred for indoor use. The problem with them, one problem is they're less efficient. Electrical losses are significantly higher. Air cooling systems are noisy and not as effective as the oil models, and they're prone to overheating, limiting performance during overload. They're also more expensive to maintain. Advantages, disadvantages of the oil-filled models. It has more efficient conduction, insulation, and cooling. Disadvantage, flammable liquids are present. They present a fire, explosion, and leak hazard. The oil used is usually mineral oil. You can only imagine the huge volume of mineral oil needed for these, and it has to be replaced periodically. So again, this talk is about transformer adequacy as it relates to resource adequacy. Headlines from multiple sources are replete with warnings of transformer shortages. There was one in the New Scientist March 11th of this year. A massive power transformer shortage is wreaking havoc in the United States. That was the headline. A nationwide shortage of power grid transformers is causing delays across the United States for everything from infrastructure for electric vehicles to new homes. That was part of the text. The shortage spans the range of transformers from pole-top units to massive units. Impact from transformer shortages. Procurement times for a new distribution level transformer is over a year. It was 3 months in 2020. The average costs have also increased significantly. New construction sits unfinished, awaiting connection to the grid. Delays in repairing transformers damaged by natural disasters. That's a big deal. Many electrification projects are being deferred or canceled. Many that are completed cannot be hooked up to the grid. You cannot electrify electric vehicle charging station without transformers. What about the impact from transformer shortage on utility companies? Difficulty fulfilling their requirements for provision of power, for keeping the lights on when storms damage their depleted stockpiles of transformers, for adding enough new wind and solar for net zero goals. Utility companies are having a tough time doing this without enough transformers. Addressing the transformer shortage. Transformers are key to, so addressing this shortage is key to grid reliability in general, grid damage recovery, meeting the needs of energy transition and expansion. Solving the transformer shortage problem requires understanding of the root causes. That's probably fairly obvious. Many transformers currently in operation are near or past their designed lifetimes. There are labor shortages. It requires skilled, meticulous manual labor to put these transformers together. COVID lockdowns disrupted supply chains. The focus on electrification and achieving net zero emissions has dramatically increased the demand of transformers. To reach the goal of a zero carbon grid by 2035, United States generation capacity will need to triple compared to the 2020 level. Power line capacity, including transformers, will also have to double or triple. So while current transformers are past their prime, there's a dramatic increased demand and supply chain shortages abound. Dependence on foreign sources is part of the crisis. June of this year, President Biden invoked the Defense Production Act to accelerate the domestic production of clean energy technologies, including transformers. The Defense Production Act of 1950 is a United States federal law enacted for civil defense and war mobilization in the context of the Cold War. So I bring this to your attention to show that it is clearly a crisis for them to be invoking this Defense Production Act. And it is seen as a crisis by the current administration. So dependence on foreign sources, copper and steel are the primary components of transformers. The special grade steel is produced largely in South Korea, Japan, and Eastern Europe. We do very little of it in the United States. The copper is produced largely in Chile and Australia. The Department of Energy's new efficiency standards put out last December for amorphous transformer steel cores, they increase the cost and they delay production of transformers. So those efficiency standards are delaying the production of transformers and contributing to the crisis. Here's a graphic depiction of our reliance on foreign sources. Again, steel and copper are the main components of the transformers. And according to the United States Geologic Survey, copper reserves currently amount to around 870 million tons. Identified and undiscovered copper resources are estimated to be 2,100 million tons and 3,500 million tons. This graph shows we have plenty of copper in this country. The problem we have is getting to it. Worldwide, same thing. We have plenty of copper worldwide, but there are issues of how to get to it. in our country has mainly to do with regulation and litigation, making it difficult to get to the resources that we have. At this point, there is talk about meeting demand for transformers via more domestic production, but so far, no publicly known action. Bottom line, no transformers means lights out and no electricity to your home, business, school, firehouse, or hospital. Thank you for listening.